Next up, here are your main tools. You're going to want a bit of scrubby stuff. I think this is like ScotchBrite pads I got from Home Depot. You can also use the rough green scrubby side of a sponge. And this is for roughing up the surface of your Shrinky Dinks so that it has a little bit of a grit to it, so that it will hold on to the ink of your markers. You want a pencil to trace with your template, your stencil, so that you know where to cut. You got your scissors for cutting the stuff out. I know, right? Sometimes I say the obvious. You got your alcohol-based ink markers. It's very important that your markers have ink that is alcohol-based. I use Sharpies, but other alcohol-based ink brands will do too. And you'll see that this is not your regular Sharpie, this is the fine tip, this is the micro tip Sharpie. I'm trying to get it close to the camera so you can read the print here, and it keeps being blurry. Well, anyway, it says fine tip, so I highly recommend this Sharpie here, the fine tip Sharpie. And if you want to add some color, which I will be doing in this video, you got your colored Sharpies and other alcohol-based ink markers. This is a CraftSmart brand, and that works just fine. This one is a CraftSmart also. This is Sharpie. Then you're going to want your heat tool, also called a heat gun. I may call it a heat tool or a heat gun, depends on what comes out of my mouth. And this you can also get at most craft stores in with the sometimes I have a brain-mouth disconnect. You can find this in with the rubber stamps and the embossing powders and stuff like that. That's what this is for. But I use it to heat and shrink my Shrinkies. And this heat tool, it gets much hotter than a hairdryer. So you can't just use a hairdryer for this, unfortunately. You gotta use a heat tool or an oven. But a heat tool is a whole lot easier to fit into a video, so that's what I'm gonna use. Lastly, you're going to want some long, thin metal tool to hold down your Shrinky while you're putting it under the heat tool, because the heat tool blows hot air. No, literally, it has a very strong stream of very hot air, and you will need to be able to hold your piece still while you're blowing on it, while your heat tool is blowing on it. This is a little tool that I came up with myself. It's a little piece of aluminum tubing with bits of, I think this is 14 gauge wire stuck inside. You don't need something this specific. Like, pretty much any metal, long, thin tool will work. Say a knitting needle. I've tried bamboo skewers, but they have a tendency to stick into the soft plastic, so I recommend staying to metal, which won't stick so much.